Religious organizations often play a significant role in shaping the beliefs and practices of their followers. Jehovah's Witnesses have been known for their distinctive doctrines and practices, but concerns have been raised about the organization's misquoting of experts and scientists to support its teachings. Jehovah's Witnesses articles misquote or misrepresent source quotes to a shocking extent. This used to be difficult to identify because we did not have access to information at our fingertips, and Watchtower rarely provides the source of quotes. But now that an internet search makes it simple to identify the source and context of a quote, the extent of such misquotes has become available. Two typical Watchtower practices are using ellipses to modify the meaning of a sentence and accurately quoting a line without stating that it does not represent the author's position in the context of a complete paragraph. The following samples span a wide range of topics. Some are one-time occurrences in an article, although on complex themes such as evolution or the Trinity, a single Watchtower article may contain several misquotes. In the article Winning the Battle for Your Mind, in Watchtower 2017, July, page 28, it includes a quote regarding propaganda. I recently did a full video on this, which you can watch here. Therefore, it is likely to be most effective if people are discouraged from thinking critically. What has been cut out and replaced by ellipses? Therefore, it is likely to be most effective if people do not have access to multiple sources of information, if they are discouraged from thinking critically. Michael Balfour has suggested that the best touchstone for distinguishing propaganda from science is whether a plurality of sources of information and of interpretations is being discouraged or fostered. Watchtower's misuse of ellipses is very important when considered in light of the Watchtower article, which says to trust a single source of information, follow the organization regardless of how imperfect, and dismiss alternative information regardless of how plausible. You, like any other soldier in the heat of battle, need a source of trustworthy, reliable information to prevent the enemy from playing tricks with your mind. Jehovah has provided this in the pages of the Bible. You can find all you need to combat Satan's propaganda. Be determined to stick to Jehovah's organization and loyally support the leadership he provides, no matter what imperfections may surface. Do not be quickly shaken from your reason when faced with what appear to be damaging attacks by apostates or other such deceivers of the mind, however plausible their charges may seem. Critics also point to instances where Jehovah's Witnesses have been accused of selectively using scientific studies to support their teachings while ignoring or dismissing conflicting evidence. Now, this selective use of information can create an inaccurate and biased portrayal of scientific consensus on particular topics. For instance, in publications discussing the dangers of blood transfusions, Jehovah's Witnesses may highlight studies that report complications associated with transfusions while downplaying or omitting research that emphasizes the life-saving benefits of blood transfusions in certain medical situations. This one-sided presentation can potentially mislead followers and discourage them from making informed medical decisions based on a comprehensive understanding of the available scientific evidence. The Watchtower employs a range of methods to convince members that blood transfusions are unsafe. One outstanding misquote regards the risk of refusing a transfusion for renal transplantation. Not only is a full stop added, but the quote hides the context that shows a significant increase in death rate for Jehovah's Witness renal transplant patients with anemia. The overall results suggest that renal transplantation can be safely and efficaciously applied to most Jehovah's Witnesses. This comes from How Can Blood Save Your Life, page 16. The full quote is as follows. Jehovah's Witnesses had an increased susceptibility to rejection episodes. The cumulative percentage of incidents of primary rejection episodes was 77%, at 3 months in Jehovah's Witnesses versus 44% at 21 months in the matched control group. The consequence of early allograft dysfunction from rejection was particularly detrimental to Jehovah's Witnesses who developed severe anemia. 2 early deaths occurred in the subgroup with this combination. The overall results suggest that renal transplantation can be safely and efficaciously applied to most Jehovah's Witness patients, but those with anemia who undergo early rejection episodes are a high-risk group relative to other transplant patients. Misleading comments are made such as that EPO can help a patient form replacement red cells very quickly, 3 to 4 times faster than normal. This was from How Can Blood Save Your Life, page 15. A reader quite likely would think very quickly means hours or days, yet EPO can take 4 or more weeks to begin to relieve some of the symptoms of anemia. The information supplied in How Can Blood Save Your Life also attempts to create unrealistic fear of the risks of blood transfusions. For instance, page 11 quotes from the New York Times, July the 18th, 1989, that a panel of health officials all answered no to accepting blood from a person who tested positive for Lyme disease. What is not stated is that there have never been any cases of Lyme disease linked to blood transfusions. The Watchtower discourages advanced education or higher education. The following quote contains a number of flaws in how information should be presented. Of this important library of books, Phelps added, our ideas, our wisdom, our philosophy, our literature, our art, our ideals come more from the Bible than from all other books put together. I believe a knowledge of the Bible without a college course is more valuable than a college course without the Bible. That is a quote from the Awake 2000, December 22. This quote encapsulates the misleading way the Watchtower commonly includes quotes. First, no source for the quote is provided, so it is difficult and time-consuming to verify. It turns out to be from the Encyclopedia of Sermons, and that Phelps was a 19th century preacher. Such information is important in understanding the purpose and bias of such a comment. More importantly, the quote misrepresents the intentions of Phelps' sentence by the use of inverted commas to hide the first part of the quote. I thoroughly believe in a university education for both men and women, said Dr. William Lyon Phelps of Yale University. But I believe a knowledge of the Bible without a college course is more valuable than a college course without the Bible. Everyone who has a thorough knowledge of the Bible may truly be called educated, and no other learning or culture, no matter how extensive or elegant, can form a proper substitute. In context, we have a preacher recommending university, yet the Watchtower presents the quote in such a manner to make it appear Phelps is downplaying the value of advanced education. The 1985 creation book, Life, How Did It Get Here, by Evolution or by Creation, is an epic presentation of false information. Evolutionary theory is misrepresented, creationists are put forward as scientists, and scientists are quoted out of context. At times when a scientific article states a problem, followed by its solution, the creation book quotes the problem as an unsolved confession from a scientist, neglecting to advise that the article addresses the issue that it raised. There are too many misquotes in this book to cover in this video, so we will touch on a few. The following quotations are from the original 1985 edition of Life, How Did It Get Here, by Evolution or by Creation. This book contains a multitude of misquotes and deliberate misrepresentations. These same misquotes were carried through to the 2006 edition. The scientific magazine Discover put the situation in this way. Evolution is not only under attack by fundamentalist Christians, but is also being questioned by reputable scientists. Among paleontologists, scientists who study the fossil record, there is growing dissent from the prevailing view of Darwinism. That comes from page 15, paragraph 4. This is the entire quote within context. Charles Darwin's brilliant theory of evolution, published in 1859, had a stunning impact on scientific and religious thought and forever changed man's perception of himself. Now that hallowed theory is not only under attack by fundamentalist Christians, but is also being questioned by reputable scientists. Among paleontologists, scientists who study the fossil record, there is growing dissent from the prevailing view of Darwinism. Most of the debate will center on one key question: does the 3-billion-year-old process of evolution creep at a steady pace, or is it marked by long periods of inactivity punctuated by short bursts of rapid change? Darwin's widely accepted view that evolution proceeds steadily at a crawl favors the tortoise, but two paleontologists, Niles Eldridge of the American Museum of Natural History and Stephen Jay Gould of Harvard, are putting their bets on the hare. A total and deliberate cherry-picking of the quotes in the article. Richard Dawkins falls prey to the Watchtower's dishonesty by misquoting in this example. At this point, a reader may begin to understand Dawkins's comment in the preface to his book. This book should be read almost as though it were science fiction. That is on page 39. The original quote from Richard Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene, that was released in 1976, is as follows. This book should be read almost as though it were science fiction. It is designed to appeal to the imagination, but it is not science fiction. It is science. Cliché or not, stranger than fiction expresses exactly how I feel about the truth. There are about 69 misquotes in the creation book, and smacks of Watchtower's deliberate attempt at misleading the reader and to put forward their narrative. The misquoting of experts and scientists by Jehovah's Witnesses can have a far-reaching consequence, impacting not only the followers, but also the perception of the organization in the broader community. Some of the potential consequences include, number one, medical decision-making. Followers may make critical medical decisions based on information that is allegedly misrepresented by the organization. This can lead to adverse health outcomes, especially in cases where followers reject life-saving medical interventions based on the organization's teachings. Number two, credibility and trust. Misquoting experts and scientists erodes the credibility of the organization. As followers become aware of potential distortions, trust in the leadership and the reliability of the information provided may be compromised. Number three, public perception. Beyond the organization's internal dynamics, misquoting experts can also impact how Jehovah's Witnesses are perceived by the public. Critics argue that such practices contribute to a negative image and raise questions about the organization's commitment to intellectual honesty and transparency. Number four, stifling dissent. The alleged misquoting of experts may contribute to a culture within the organization that discourages dissent and critical thinking. Followers who question the presented information may face resistance or ostracism, hindering open dialogue and intellectual growth. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses have defended their practices, arguing that their publications accurately represent scientific information, and that many accusations of misquoting are unfounded. They assert that their commitment to biblical principles guides their interpretation of scientific findings, and their publications aim to provide a balanced view of relevant topics. The organization maintains that it is committed to the well-being of its followers and that its teachings are based on careful biblical interpretation. However, the evidence tells us a different story. Ultimately, the examination of how religious organizations handle scientific information underscores the importance of transparency, intellectual honesty, and the ethical responsibility of religious leaders to provide accurate and unbiased information to their followers.